Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Helene Coppell, TrackSmart Product Manager, and joining me in a bit will be Alex Duran, our Customer Success Champion, who I'm sure many of you have chatted with either through member services emails or the phone or a support ticket. Before we get started, let's take care of a few house notes. First, a link to the recording of this webinar will be sent to all participants after the webcast. Secondly, there will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so please take advantage of the chat feature to submit questions, and we'll do our best to answer as many as possible in the time remaining. If we don't get to your question during the webinar, we'll do our best to follow up by email as soon as possible. Now back to the topic at hand. While we've had a couple of previous webinars on employee self-service, we've presented from the TrackSmart administrator point of view. Since then, we've gotten lots of feedback requesting a training session for employees, so this one is all about them. So welcome to any employees we've got with us, and for the administrators, we hope this will be a helpful tool for you to train or share with your employees. As I mentioned earlier, we'll make this recording available to you by email after the webcast, and it'll also be available on the support site on demand as well. I'd also like to mention that a couple of the features that will be explained today are only available with certain plans, but we'll bring that to your attention during the presentation so you're not confused. So, on to today's agenda. Okay, here is what we are going to be covering today. What happens after an administrator clicks send invitation when they're setting up their employees? Viewing the company calendar, requesting time off and reviewing time off balances, entering and submitting timesheets, updating contact and emergency contact information, approving time off requests and timesheets, running reports for both employees and supervisors, and using the mobile app. Okay, so what happens? The administrator has set up their employee and sent out send invitation, and the employee will receive this email. In the email, you'll see that all of the permissions that an administrator has given this employee and or supervisor have been included in the message. So you can see in this example, we've given this person permission to everything. They are a supervisor, they manage employees, they can request time off themselves, they can enter timesheet hours, they can view a schedule of all pending and approved time off so that they can avoid potential conflicts. They can view time off and key events for employees in the calendar. They can update their personal and emergency contact information. They are a supervisor who can approve and decline employee time off requests, timesheets, and on behalf of the employee, update the contact information. You'll see there's also where they go to log in, because it is a different place. Instead of going to TrackSmart.com, they go to employees.tracksmart.com. The email address they've been set up with, the password, and then they can change that. And we also include links to download the mobile apps so that they have this in the future and can always access important features of TrackSmart through their smartphone. Okay, so your employee logs in for the first time. The employee dashboard. In this example, the employee does not have supervisor permissions. So this is just the dashboard for a regular old employee who doesn't have to approve anything. In this example, you can see they have a summary of their time off balances, what have they used, what has been taken, and what's still available. And this is based on your company's time off plan, what's been set up for whether you roll over hours or what the company benefit year is, what's available right now for you. You'll also see there's a link to go request time off. And also, if you have permissions for timesheets, you will see a summary of the current work week, any time in and out that has already been logged for that current week. And that link down there will take you straight into your timesheets. As a reminder, timesheets are available with FlexTrack and PowerTrack plans. I'm skipping over to show you the calendar first because I want you to see here that before submitting a time off request, you can see already what's going on in the calendar. In this example, this is Alice's calendar, and she has submitted a time off request for Friday the 13th. She's celebrating with black cats, I don't know. And when she hovers over that pending request, she can see the specific details, the date, the reason for it, any comments. But I just want to bring to your attention that had she hovered over the person below her, who happens to be Joe Reynolds Smith, she would only see that he has submitted a request for a day off. The details are hidden when it comes to other employees. But let's say these two people were not allowed to take the same day off. They cover each other. If she had seen that Joe was already off that day, she could either go on her own and talk to Joe to see if she can negotiate that time off ahead of time, or kind of put in a note to her boss saying, I know Joe took off, but I have jury duty. I have no choice. So, by the way, while they're also here, if there were birthdays on the calendar, that would show up. They can also use filters on the left. If they can see the whole company and there's a lot of people, they can narrow it down by department so that they can just limit the people they need to see. They can also limit by the type of calendar event. If they only want to see absences or events, they can narrow down that view as well. Okay, I think I'm going to kick it over to Alex to talk about how to submit a time off request.
Okay, so let's jump into one of your employee's favorite option in TrackSmart, a time off request. When an employee would like to submit a time off request, they may click on the time off request tab located on the top of the page. Here's what an employee's time off request page will look like. In this page, an employee's time off request will have a reason code already pre-set up by your administrator, the start and end date, hours, a comments field. On the right, employees can see their available time and time banks that have also been set up by their administrator. And on the bottom right, a time off request history. Here, employees can see their time off request history. They can see either pending or approved time off requests. We'll get into that a little bit later. Now, once an employee submits a time off request, an email notification is sent to the administrator, supervisor, and employee. Notification goes to the administrator and supervisor. Employee will receive notification that the request was submitted to their administrator. And once the administrator or supervisor makes a decision, the employee will receive a notification telling them the request was approved or declined. A great new feature that we introduced just a few months ago is the option for an employer to cancel their own time off request. Please keep in mind that an employee cannot cancel their time off request if the date has arrived or passed. Canceling a time off request, for employees who cancel a time off request, the employee will click on Time Off Request tab. In the Time Off Request page, employees can click on the date that they would like to cancel in the Time Off Request history. A time off request detail pop-up will appear showing the details of the time off request. The employee will click on Cancel Request. The administrator, supervisor, and employee will receive an email stating that their request was canceled by that employee. Any time that was deducted from the employee's time bank will be added back to their time bank, and absence will be removed from the calendar if request was approved.
I just want to give a by the way before we move on, a little heads up that if your start and end date will overlap on a weekend, but you don't have to take weekends off, you can adjust the time, the number of hours, and just put a note in the comments for your manager, and then for your supervisor, administrator, and then they can adjust those absences when they receive that request, because start and end date will automatically calculate the total number of hours based on the number of hours in your day. So you can back the weekends out of your total number of hours when you're submitting that request. Okay, here's the contact info. It's pretty basic and to the point. This allows you, the employee, or the supervisor can do on behalf of his or her employees to keep contact information up to date. If you need to change your email address, your phone numbers, emergency contact information, this is a great place to keep it up to date. You can see what your company has on file for you in TrackSmart and make sure that is up to date. That's a great thing to make sure you are staying on top of, and that I think counts at every business, as we want to be able to help our employees in the event of an emergency and keep everything current. So very simple one there. So next, we are going to talk more detail about the timesheets, and here I'll give you a reminder that this feature is available again with FlexTrack and PowerTrack plans. As an employee, if you do not have timesheets displaying in your dashboard or in your menu, it means you don't have access to it and you don't need to worry about it. Alex?
Now, I believe that this feature is an employee's best friend because in many cases it deals with their paycheck. By clicking on Timesheets tab, employees will be directed to a timesheet history page. Here, employees can see their weekly timesheet history, worked hours for each timesheet, and status. To view a particular timesheet, employees can click on the edit icon, or by how many members call it, the pen and paper icon. By clicking on the edit icon, the employee will be taken to a specific workweek timesheet detail. On the top, the employees can see their basic information, timesheet workweek, status, and the print icon. In the middle, the workweek is shown like the administrator set up in their preferences. Also, please remember that if a time off request has been approved, it will show up on their timesheet, under one of the time bank's name. At the bottom, employees have a certification box to certify their times, a notes box to type any notes to notify the administrator or supervisor about any issues or changes to their times, and the Save and Submit buttons. We suggest that employees only click on the Save button until their work week is over. Once their work week is over, then they can submit their timesheets to their administrator or supervisor. In this example, we're showing you how a worked hours timesheet is shown. You can see if an employer wants their employees only to enter their work hours, this is the timesheet that will be for you.
That preference, whether you see time in and out or worked hours, is really based on how your administrator set up their account, how they prefer to review your timesheets. And that is probably just a policy at your business, and if you're not sure, you can ask your TrackSmart administrator. So now we're going to talk about the approval process for supervisors. Again, just a reminder, supervisor approvals are available with FlexTrack and PowerTrack plans. Let's just quickly look at the dashboard for a supervisor. So you see this is a little different. While you have the employee summary view at the bottom, just like regular role employees have, supervisors also can see which employees have been assigned to them and if they have any time off requests or timesheets pending their approval. Now, if you don't have any employees using one of these features, it's going to display a message that says that. You won't have to worry about it. And sometimes it just says 0. But you can click on a button to go right ahead and start working on those pending approvals. You can click on the button respective to each of those items. And I think Alex will walk you through that process.
Now that employees are submitting time off requests and timesheets, supervisors, let's start approving them. By clicking on the Review Time Off Request button located on the dashboard, or by clicking on the Time Off Request tab and selecting Review Employee Requests, the supervisor will be taken to the Time Off Request page. Here, supervisors can filter time off requests by name, status, and year. This option is very helpful if you would like to see just a single employee and their request. Once you have found the employee, supervisors may click on the Edit button and open that request or timesheet. A time off request pop-up window will appear with the employee's time off request detail. Here you can see the information that the employee has entered, the reason, start end date of request, how much time was requested. Again, please note that our program is trying to help you by pre-selecting the time bank based on the reason code that the employee has entered. It is up to the administrator or supervisor to select which time bank that you would like this request to be deducted from, since the employee does not have this option. On the right, the supervisor can see the employee's comments, employee's time bank and available time, and who else is out. Please make sure that you check with your company's policy on multiple employees taking the same day off. On the bottom, there is a notes field to enter any notes for yourself, and a message box for any communication that you would like the employee to know about their request. Now, approving timesheets. By clicking on the Timesheets tab, supervisors are able to see a summary of their assigned employee's timesheet status for each week. In the timesheet summary, supervisors can approve or reject multiple timesheets by clicking on the box next to the employee's name, or can individually approve or reject an employee's timesheet. To view an employee's timesheet, the supervisor will click on the Edit icon. This will direct them to the employee's timesheet detail page. Here, you can see that the employee's name has been highlighted and also appears on the top of the timesheet next to their work week. Supervisors can see the times entered by their employees, their total worked hours, if the employee has certified this timesheet, and any employee's notes. A note box is also provided for the supervisor to enter any notes that they would like the employee to see. Then, of course, the supervisor will approve or reject this timesheet.
Supervisors may also make edits to this, and that's a good time when you want to put a note to the employee so they understand why you've edited their time. And that edited time will appear in orange so that it's obvious to the employee. Also, a reminder that in this example, the account had been set up for time in and out. You may be approving one where your account is set up to just total hours. And if administrators are listening, when would you possibly see one where an employee did not certify? Because an employee cannot submit unless they've checked that box saying, I certified this is accurate and true. But if you had needed for payroll for the supervisor to push it through while somebody's on vacation, then they could have approved or submitted on behalf of the employee, in which case they could not certify the employee's truth on that, and you would see a no, and that's how you'll see it in the reports moving forward. But you have the opportunity to approve or reject this timesheet, and in that case, the employee will receive notifications saying this has been approved or rejected. And it's a good heads up that they need, if they got a rejection notice, they need to go back and make changes. So you're going to want to put that in the notes so that they know why you rejected it and when it has to be resubmitted by. Okay, we're going to get into some reports now, and there's basic employee reports and supervisor reports. And again, here's our reminder once again.
Employees and supervisors, if given permission, will have the option to pull their own reports. This will alleviate some employees coming to the office asking for a copy of their absences, emails, or sticky notes to the administrator or supervisor. On the employees report, employees are only given two reports, an absence detail and an employee schedule report. The absence detail report is a detailed history of your absences and time deducted that's on the calendar. As seen an example here, you can see the date of the absence code, the hours, which time bank was deducted, and it was in the status. The employee schedule report is for employees that can see upcoming time off for all employees at your business to avoid any potential conflicts. Supervisor reports. Supervisors, of course, will have more reporting options for attendance and timesheets. In the attendance side, supervisors have the ability to filter your assigned employees or just yourself, select a preset or specific date range for this report. Under timesheet summary, it will provide a summary of your employees' hours worked for any date range you need, whether it be weekly, bi-monthly, monthly, or whatever else works for your needs. In the timesheet detail report, this report will provide a daily view of all hours worked and apply time off banks for the selected date range.
I also want to mention here, these are if you support payroll processes at your business, then you have, we recommend that you run these reports and export to CSV so you can change it into whatever format or columns your business needs and customize. That's why we added that CSV option. We also see here this column certified. It shows that it was certified, and this was added. It shows whether the employee has checked the box for that particular work week's timesheet, and that was actually added as a result of a customer feedback, and this can support you in the event of you need to prove whether it's an administrator point of view. If any worked hours comes into question for legal compliance, and you have proof here that the employee said it was true, whether it's true or not, there's the question. But this has it on the record now, what the employee said for your reports. We're just going to briefly review what you get with the mobile apps. Whatever functionality you get with the mobile apps, it's related to whatever permissions you have been given by the administrator to handle. And we will say there is right now no supervisor approvals through the mobile app today.
Or an admin.
Or an admin. I apologize. Go ahead, let's flip the slide. Here are all the screens. Basically, these are forms to submit. You'll see, in this case, this is an employee who can manage their time worked, enter the contact information, and request time off through the mobile app. They have a screen where they can submit time off requests. If somebody's home sick, there's no excuse. Even if they've got laryngitis, they could submit the time off request for an illness using the illness code and however many hours straight from their phone at home. And you know everybody's on their cell phones anyway. They can keep their contact information up to date. I just got a new cell phone number. They can go right into the app and change that because the TrackSmart app is going to be the first one they download into their new phone. Weekly overview is their timesheet summary for that week or previous weeks, and they can submit their time in and out for that particular day. There. So that is the basic how-tos of the employee self-service site, and we're ready to take some questions, and we've got a couple in the queue. First one we've got, we'll read out loud. Our view on the calendar only shows absences. How do you see the detail, number of hours and notes like you were showing? That is available to employees only for themselves. If you're an employee and you want to see details for other people, you're not going to be able to do that in the calendar. If you're a supervisor, Alex, that's not in the calendar, but you can see it on the absence detail report, correct? Okay.
Yes.
So we don't provide the detail within the calendar, but you can run an absence detail report to see all those notes and the details of the codes and whatnot. A supervisor for their employees. Employees can see their own information, and supervisors can see for any employees they've been given permissions for. Next question.
I'll read the second one. Can we attach a file for the employee if they have a doctor's note for a specific date? You can't attach a file, but you can enter that note on their time off, on their timesheets. I'm sorry. I would suggest if you want to attach a note or a copy and paste, I will go into the employee's profile or have the administrator put it in the employee's profile and attach it to the notes tab that's located there. That's what I would suggest.
This is, just a reminder that the majority of our features have been a direct result of our customers telling us what they want and need, and this is an idea that has been presented and is in the queue. Another idea is that if you have a place maybe in your files or intranet, you can reference where you've saved that within the notes, so you're not copying and pasting the entire note, but if you have a file, maybe you want to just reference in the employee notes as to where you save it. Okay. Next question. Can the administrator request time off for the employee? I would say an administrator doesn't need to submit a time off request. They can just enter an absence into their calendar. Does that make sense? Alex, do you have another suggestion for that? We just go into the administrator's calendar.
Yes, that's correct. The administrator will automatically enter an absence for an employee. Not a time off request will show pending or anything like that. It will be a straight absence on the calendar, because the administrator is, in our program, the all-in-all, the almighty.
And a supervisor doesn't have that permission right now, but it's something we're planning in the future. So I would encourage, as a supervisor, I would encourage your employees to follow the process. And that's a big point here is, while we have a great tool for you to use to keep track, your business has its own policies. It's important to have attendance policies so your employees know what they are and can follow that. For example, your time banks. If you guys only use a PTO bank and not personal vacation, then let your, as administrators, let your supervisors know that when they're approving a time off request, that all requests, regardless of absence code selected, should be taking time out of that bank. So I would follow, first and foremost, are the policies at your business. That comes first. Do you want to address that, Alan?
I'll take this one. How does the admin tie the time off reason to different time off banks? Now, this is a popular question that I receive daily, and my answer to this is, please remember that your reason or absence code is just that. It's just a reason why the employee is taking that time off or wants to take off that time off request. Remember that your time banks, they're only limited to your PTO, vacation, sick, and personal. Now, like I stated before in our webinar here, that our program tries to help you. So if an employer requests a personal as a reason, the program would think, well, they want to take a personal from their personal time bank. Now, if your company only uses PTO, that's a conflict right there, because it'll pull. If you leave it alone, it'll pull from a time bank that's not being used. So, like Helene stated, the supervisor or admin has to be the one that selects the time banks where this time off will be deducted from.
We have basically set up 3 defaults: vacation, illness, and personal, to correspond with those time off banks, and the other code. What does that go to?
PTO.
PTO. It is a great product enhancement suggestion, and it is another one that we have in the queue to give you guys the ability to define your defaults for your employees. But right now, the supervisors and administrators need to keep an eye on that and make sure the correct bank is selected before approving those codes. But even if the supervisor selects the wrong one, the administrator can always open that absence in the calendar, because every time it's approved, it goes in as an absence on the primary calendar, on the main calendar, which employees will then be able to see as an approved absence. But administrators can double-click on that specific absence in the calendar and make the adjustment as needed. Sorry, we got another comment that you thought we could set it up. It cannot be set up from the administrator's place right now. But post it in the community. The more people that ask for a certain feature, the more likely it is to be developed. Any other questions? Okay, so it doesn't look like we have any new questions coming in, so we're going to wrap up. As a reminder, if you have any more questions, you can email us at memberservices@tracksmart.com, or if you're on the employee site, you can hit the help link for more information. If you're on the administrator site, hit support, and there is the member community as well. There's a feedback tab on the administrator site. There's many ways to get to us, and many of you know that you have direct access to both of us. You're not just a random name and number. We read pretty much everything that comes in ourselves. So, wait, one more question. In contact info under emergency contact, how can a second contact be added? Oh, we do not have one, but that's a great suggestion. Maybe they want to sneak it into address line 2. Can we sneak back to that slide? Oh, wait, I'm going to have it in front of me. Oh, there's not a spot for it. Nope, it's a great suggestion. Right now we only have one. I would maybe see if you can include that in the notes in the employee profile if you have that information from the employee. I apologize, but that's a great suggestion. Again, throw that up to the community for product ideas on that support site. Excellent. Okay. All right, we're going to wrap up now. If you have any other questions, get in touch with us, and we are happy to answer. Thank you so much for joining us and for being a part of TrackSmart. Happy tracking.
Thank you.